Ayeka, exploring the depths of Jewish wisdom together.
It's beautiful to see people come out when there's a hustle and bustle going on, and we come out, and our goal is one simple thing: to study how to get closer to God, how to get closer to Hashem. But there's a perk and there's a real benefit to it, and that is that in the process of getting closer to God, we get closer to ourselves. And I always think that Tefillah, more than being like something you do for God, it's really something you do for yourself. It's a way that you and I can really live from a better place and a more wholesome experience. So what we discussed last time is a practical preparation for davening, and that was giving tzedakah. We learned and came to understand that tzedakah is a practical act that allows us to access through intention a state of connection to our inner consciousness. Because when you give tzedakah, you're forced to be mindful of the people around you. Giving tzedakah is not a normal mode of business. Giving tzedakah means you have to give of yourself, and therefore it is critical for every single person to actually be a giver and to do the giving before davening. And as we noted, Rabbi Eliezer yohiv pruta le'ani v'hodar matzli. Rabbi Eliezer would give a coin to a poor man, and only then would he daven. Because when you give that coin, when you give that money, write that check to a poor person, to someone who needs it, you're opening yourself up and you discover your own inner consciousness, because that's what it requires to give tzedakah, as we discussed last time. Before a person begins to daven, before he begins to pray, we are in a state of what's called a bama. And remember, we quoted the pasuk, which says, "Chadlu lachem min ha'adam asher neshama ve'apoi." Stay away from a person whose soul is in his nostrils, ki bamo nechshavu, because what is he regarded? And we explained the pasuk, the verse, to mean that stay away from a person whose soul is still in his nostrils. When you wake up in the morning, your soul was above, and your soul returns to you. And the return of the soul into the body is a gradual process. When it starts off, it only begins in the nostrils. That's where you breathe. And what you want to do is express and spread the power of life throughout your entire being. And the way you do that is through davening. What davening does is takes the power of the soul and brings it out so that it shouldn't remain concealed. And if you don't do that, if you don't daven, or rather before we daven, so the verse says, "Chadlu lachem min ha'adam asher neshama ve'apoi," stay away from a person who hasn't yet prayed and his soul is still in his nostrils, ki bama nechshavu. Not what is he regarded, but bama nechshavu. What's a bama? A stage. Because before you daven, so each one of us has his own experiences, his own desires, his own thing about what he is, and you don't feel a part of the whole. And our goal through Tefillah is to experience a full-fledged wholesomeness through being able to look at the world in a different light, through being able to see ourselves and God and our mission and our process and our purpose in a whole new light. And when we do that, we become part of this greater wholesomeness. And the ability to get there is called davening. That's the basis of a successful family unit. Can you imagine a family unit where each individual in the family sees themselves as an individual and doesn't want to work together with everybody else? The goal is, any company, imagine a company tries to function and each one has his own thing. The art of running a good, solid company is to get everyone to work together, fuse together as one unit, as one whole. And so when you wake up in the morning, by default, you feel your own self. Me, my need, what I need to achieve. And the goal is, and then I need to serve Hashem, I'm going to do things for God so that I can get a reward. It's all about me, myself, and I. Like getting into a relationship, when you get into a marriage, and initially, what do you want in the marriage? It's about me and what I'm getting out of it. Inevitably, that's how you enter the relationship. And as the relationship develops and it fuses and you become one with the other person, it ceases to be an I and it begins to be a we. We begin to think in terms of us. That's the beautiful story of the tzaddik of Yerushalayim, Rabbi 11, who noted that when he went to ask the doctor about his wife's foot, he says, "Doctor, my wife's foot is hurting us." That's a relationship which one gets when you become one and you fuse and there's a wholesomeness. And that's the type of relationship we want to have in life. With the people around us, with God, with the world, to be able to live in a state of wholesomeness. Yeshayahu, the prophet, rebukes the people and he says, "Vatihi yirosa moisi mitzvahs anoshim melumada." Their fear of me, God says, was a mitzvahs anoshim melumada. It was by rote. Meaning you just do the stuff. Do this, do that. And there's no experience of a depth and a profundity of a relationship. So what we do is, we wake up in the morning and we say, let's go daven. And what does it mean to go daven? It means to contemplate and think about God. And not just about God as the creator, but Kel B'Kotri. God and his turf. And so you spend this whole period of time in the morning meditating about Psukkah de Zimra and Birkas Krishma, about what is Hashem, what is He, and how is my relationship to Him. And what's happening is you're fusing and becoming one in that process. And the tzedakah that we give before davening, what that achieves is, as we noted the pasuk in Tehillim and Psalms, it says, Tzedek lefonov yehalech. Remember, what does that mean? Tzedek lefonov yehalech means, simple meaning is, tzedakah walks in front of you. The deeper Chassidic meaning is, tzedakah, tzedek, causes lefanav yehalech, causes your pnimiyut, your inner consciousness to go places. So you're locked up into your own perspective, and the tzedakah that we give causes us to rise and to go places and to access that inner consciousness. So that's what we held last week. Again, our goal is to shift from external consciousness, which is this relationship of just me and you, I do my thing, you do your thing, and we just happen to live together under the same roof, and that's our relationship with God. What we do is we want to get into an inner consciousness, and the way to get there is the preparation is tzedakah. You give that tzedakah, you shift your own consciousness inside you, and then you're ready to daven. What is the davening itself? It's this process of getting to know God, getting to fuse and become one in your relationship with Him. And then you see, oh, now I realize what my purpose is. I feel purposeful. I feel like my avodah, my whole being in life is under one entity. And that's an incredible experience, which is known as inner consciousness, when you feel your own inner self. This week, we're going to be moving into understanding another aspect of preparing for davening and the deeper layers behind it, and see if we can understand so that we can connect to it and bring another idea, in addition to tzedakah, into our own tefillah practice. And this preparation is very closely linked to tzedakah. Now let's learn a little bit of Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is the most basic halachic text which gives us the simple ideas of how you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to act in life. And this is what it says in chapter 12 in Siman Yud Beis, Sif Beis, the second paragraph in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Okay, how do you prepare for davening? I quote, Tov liten tzedakah kodem atfilah. It's good to give tzedakah before davening. Shneimar ani b'tzedek echazeh fanecha. I will see your, well, what does that mean? Ani b'tzedek echazeh fanecha? In English? Ani b'tzedek. With righteousness. Over here he's explaining tzedek as tzedakah. Echazeh fanecha. See your face. But we know a little bit of what that means. Echazeh fanecha. And what does it mean? I'll discover your inner consciousness, your bifnim. That's number one. Number two, in the same halacha, Gam yekabel alav kodem kol tefillah. You should accept upon yourself before every tefillah that you begin in the day. Mitzvat ve'ahavta lereyacha kamocha. Have you ever heard this one? And before davening, one should accept the mitzvah ve'ahavta lereyacha kamocha of loving your fellow like you love yourself. V'yichaven lehov es kol echad miYisrael kenafshei. you should have intention to love every other Jew as you love your own soul. This again is Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. This is the most basic halachic text that we should all follow. And he's advising us to actually contemplate about the mitzvah of loving your fellow as you love yourself before davening. Ki im chas v'sholem yesh pirud levavois lemata, if there's a separation of our hearts down here in this world, as gam lemailo einis achdus. If we are separate, then in the celestial domain, there's also no sense of oneness. Aval is achdus begufein shelemata, when our bodies fuse and we become one, living and loving each other, goyre mis achdus udveikus nafshesein lemaila. This causes a oneness and a dveikus, a sense of connection upstairs. And then the tefillos, the prayers, are able to unite. Our prayers are able to become one tefillah. If all our prayers are one, so instead of me rising as my prayer and you as yours and someone else as their own, what happens is, when you accept the mitzvah, we have all of us together fuse into one huge giant prayer, a tefillah that rises up together, and obviously the power of the tzibur, the power of the community is greater than the power of the individual. And so through our fusing in Avas Yisrael together, we unite and become one. Now take a look open up this siddur. Right at the beginning. I have it on page 12, I think, in all these things on page 12. This is, you have space right there. So, you see page 12? Do you have it on page 12? Yeah? No? Turn two more pages. One more page, and that one? One more page? There. What page are you on? 12. Okay, page 12 by everybody. That doesn't happen. Page 12 here. This is a siddur. Now take a look. You see there's the Matoivo Alecha Yaakov. This is right at the beginning of davening. Matoivo Alecha Yaakov, Mishnesecha Yisroel, then Adon Olam. This is the davening. Before that, Matoivo, do you see what's inserted there? And right before that line, Nachon Lomar Kodem Atfilah, it is proper to say before davening, Hareini Mekabel Olai, mitzvahs asay shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I accept upon myself the positive mitzvah of ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. This is a siddur.
My siddur does not say. I've never seen this in my life.
Yes, this is a siddur of the Baal HaTanya.
It's like so basic, but like we don't know this.
No, but it's like there's so many things that we need to like.
This is such
Just
a
remind
basic
ourselves
concept that your whole
Yep.
tefillah would be different if you would just think about this before you started davening.
So this is a halacha, that's what I'm saying, it's a halacha in Kitzur Shulchan Aruch that all Jews keep. And it's a meditation that works, as we'll see. When you focus on it, something changes. But interesting that in the Baal HaTanya's siddur, the Nusach Hari siddur, he actually had it printed in the siddur. He said, I want everyone to actually say these words. So it's an amazing thing to do. Before davening, you get yourself used to the idea. You say, Hareini mekabel olai mitzvah sasei shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. That is a fulfillment of the halacha in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. I accept upon myself the positive mitzvah of the ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. And obviously there's a meditation that goes with it. There's something to think about. And that's what I want to focus on today. This short, powerful, let's call it even a tefillah, an acceptance of the mitzvah ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. It's really about accessing the thought process behind Avas Yisrael, love of a fellow Jew, and how that prepares us for the tefillah. So here's the question. What does it mean to have Avas Yisrael? It sounds like a wonderful ideal, but let's talk practically. And that's going to be the focus for today. How do we have Avas Yisrael? What is the meditation required for Avas Yisrael, which is going to be the preparation for davening? Can we really love other Jews? Meaning, ask yourself the question. You say this, Hareini mekabel olai mitzvahs aseh shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Do I really feel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha? Is it possible to love somebody else? What do you think?
Of course, yes.
Yeah? Like you love yourself?
It's different.
What does it mean?
No. It's
If you buy yourself a new
Yes.
Tesla,
Of course it's
so you should buy everybody else also.
Calm down.
You don't want done to yourself, don't do to others.
What?
What you don't want done to yourself, don't do to others.
Okay, very good. What else? So that's not really a feeling. What's the experience of feeling love for a fellow Jew?
Doing
Giving.
Doing things, giving,
forgiving others as you would forgive yourself.
forgiving.
putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
Putting yourself in someone else's shoes, beautiful. Okay? In general, in order to access the Hafta L'Reacha Kamoicha, what's required is what we're calling a shift from external consciousness, chitzonius, into inner consciousness, into pnimius. From an external surface level understanding to a deeper level to begin to understand and to connect. That's the shift that's required. Now, what we're going to try to do now is learn a technique for reaching the mitzvah of Ahavta L'Reacha Kamoicha. The code word for Avas Yisroel is, take a guess.
Giving.
The code word is the word we're talking about all the time. There is a Mishnah. What? Well, try this. The Mishnah says in Ethics of the Fathers, in Pirkei Avot, when it's telling us that you should feel humble before every person. What does it say? Hevei shval ruach. You should be humble of spirit. Remember the rest? Bifnei kol adam. What does that mean? Hevei shval ruach bifnei kol adam. In English? Be
Technically on
humble
the face of it, but really it's inside.
The face of everyone.
on the face of everyone. What does that mean? Hevei shval ruach legabei kol adam. Be humble towards every person, I understand. What does it mean, be humble? Bifnei kol adam, to the face of every
Inside.
person. We know that code word, bifnei, whenever we see it in davening, bakshu fanov tamid. Always seek the panav. Always seek the pnimiyut. Stop looking at the external, start looking deep at the internal. Access the inner consciousness. In order to have Avas Yisroel, the Mishnah is telling us, Hevei shval ruach, you can only be humble bifnei kol adam. So as we noted earlier, it's only possible for a company to function optimally if everybody in the company functions as a unit, as a team. Meaning, there's this common mission, common goal, and we're working towards commonality. So in any company, however much you try to get a sense of feeling of one unit, all said and done, each one has his own life, feels completely separate, and feels as if they are their own being. It is almost impossible to expect human beings to unite as one. What does that mean? Human beings should unite as one? I mean, we have friction all the time between all of us. Where does that friction come from? Let's talk about simple, basic friction, right? Like kina. What happens when there's jealousy? Why does a person have jealousy? I see myself, and I see you, and generally what happens is, you're better than me, and I don't like that. So I see that you have qualities that I wish I had, and I can't access your qualities, so I get jealous of you. Can you give me some advice on how to overcome my midah, my characteristic of jealousy? What do you think?
Basis is always to tell the person to look at themselves first and what they have.
Oh,
Focus
that's
on
generally
you.
what we say, right? Do we agree? You say, come on, you have so much yourself. Stop looking at everything the other person has. Look at the things you have. Enjoy the stuff you have. What else? How do we overcome the midah of jealousy?
We know it's from the above, so then what's there to be jealous?
We have what we need, what's right
Well,
for
what do you
us.
mean? I want what? I mean,
So that's not what
doesn't mean
Hashem
it's
okay,
gave
we're
you.
just in the week of let's see what happens in life, right? Here in Brooklyn, we live in a place, and everybody goes on midwinter vacation. So then everybody else does, and take a look at it's an incredible machine that runs, and basically everybody goes to, like, as someone told me, kid said a teacher told me, a kid said in her grade, did you go anywhere? He said, we never went anywhere. We just went skiing in the Poconos.
Oh my God.
And society starts leading. One thing leads to another because it's a dynamic machine. And everybody looks at the other one, and we all want to be like the other. How do we overcome the midah of jealousy? Practically. How do we fuse and become one? The answer basically is, here's what I would like to suggest, that the way we do it is because we are one body. You cannot become one entity unless you are one entity. Let's explore this concept. In the parasha we just read, as Moshe Rabbeinu comes over to Paro, and he says to Pharaoh, he says, you gotta let the Jews go. So the words he uses are, he says, B'ni b'choiri Yisroel. My son, my firstborn, Israel. He says, the Jewish people are Hashem's child. We have the same pasuk repeated in numerous places, but for example, in Parashas Re'eh, there it says, Banim atem la'Hashem Elokeichem. You are sons, you are children of Hashem, your God. What does that mean to be a child of God? So in general, when I say a child, what does that make you feel?
Loved.
Loved.
Cared for.
Cared for, what else?
Close.
You feel a close relationship with God. He's not just my king. He's not just Malkeinu. He's also Avinu. He's our father. So it's a wonderful sense of closeness that's generated through feeling God as a father. But let's explore deeper. Because how does a father produce a son? So what happens is, a father has a little drop of something inexplicable, and that somehow, miraculously, divinely, each part of it fuses and changes and develops through a 9-month pregnancy, and from one nekuda, one point of what the father gave, you suddenly have a whole bunch of limbs, veins, arteries. It's the miracle of life. And one tiny little point of the father, the brain of the father, is really able to produce a child. That's the parent-child relationship. So when each part of the child analyzes and looks back, the heart says, where do I come from? What does the heart realize? What's my DNA? The parent. When the foot, the toe, looks back at his DNA and he says, where do I come from? He discovers that he comes from the exact same place as the heart. There is no difference between the brain and the heel, between the heart and the toe. They are both the DNA of the Father. When it says, Bonim atem l'Hashem Elokeichem, in addition to all the wonderful feelings that it engenders by us about feeling loved and cared for, it also says that there's going to be various types of limbs, arteries, veins in the body, and all but all have a source that goes right back to the parent. That means, in the metaphor, all of us Jews are so different. You look at one type of Jew, and what do you see? You see a foot. You look at another type, and you see a brain. If I were to ask you, let's talk about Jews through history. What do you think Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov were to the Jewish body?
Heart.
Heart. How about Rashi? Brain.
Soul.
Rambam, Raavad, Vilna Gaon. Throughout history, if you look at them, you'll see the greats of the Jewish people. How about all of us?
Appendix.
You know, there's one part of the body that there's the heel. What's the heel? It's the one part of the body that it's dead skin.
Holds anything up.
It's the one part of your body that doesn't feel anything. The generation before Mashiach comes is known as Ikveta de Mashiach. What does it mean, Ikus of the Mashiach? So in a positive sense, it means the heels of Mashiach. Mashiach is about to come. In the human body sense, it means
Dead skin.
dead skin. The part of the body doesn't feel anything, it doesn't know what it is. And this idea is expressed in chapter 2 in the Tanya, where he describes at length that all of us are really part of one body. And so when you look at generations, you'll see there's the head and heart generations and there's the heel generations. Within the generation, take a look at people around you and you'll see there's so many different types and shades and colors of people. Have you ever seen a person who's a heel person? When you see the guy has absolutely no connection to anything. Perhaps he's addicted to some drugs. He's completely off the beaten path. And you recognize this person is a heel, a toe, an appendix if you like, a part of the body that's unnecessary. And then you see these beautiful, wonderful neshamas. These people are just so holy and so incredible. And you say, those are the people I gravitate to. Those are, within our generation, the brains and the hearts of the generation. But we're looking at everything externally. We're not seeing the inside of what there is to look at. What would happen if you look at Pnei Kol Adam, at the inside of every single one of us? What would you discover?
A heart and a soul.
Inside the heart, what would you see?
Goodness.
Shema.
Feelings.
DNA of the Father. Inside the heel, what would you discover?
Okay.
Same.
DNA of the Father. Inside the toe, inside the brain, wherever you go, you will discover the DNA of the Father. Now it so happens that when we look at other people, very rare are people who say, I'm the heel, and the other guy is the heart. Usually it's the other way. Usually you say, I'm probably the heart, and the other person is the heel. But you never know who's who. You see, all of us are here on a wholesome oneness of a mission. We are all together the child of God being manifest and revealed in this world. We have a collective mission together. If one person is missing, what does that say to the human body?
Something's wrong.
If you read a Sefer Torah and you discover there's over 300,000 letters in a Sefer Torah, if one letter is just connected to another one or cut, what happens to the entire Torah? Everything is missing. Start looking at the power of a Jew. Instead of thinking about life as me and my needs and what I need to achieve, when we start looking at things in terms of the way God created us, and when we realize that in his view, all of us are part of one body, and every single Jew, wherever he or she may be, is part of oneness. Do you see how the company is starting to function as one unit, as one entity? But whereas a company is not really one unit, over here, the way by design, all of us are one entity. And so the entire Jewish people is really one. Now, here's a meditation. When you see someone, you find a kid, and you look at this kid, a teenager, and you say, okay, that's probably, the heel. That's the part of the body that's off the beaten path completely. It could well be that the opposite is true. It could well be that you are the heel and that child, she may be the head. Because when you have an army, you send the best soldiers into the front lines. And the ones who are not so good, you keep in the back. Those who have more challenges are the parts of the body that are perhaps could be closer to God. They may have a deeper connection. That's why they've been given more challenges in life. So first of all, it could be that the other person is the head and you are the heel. Even if it's true that the other person is the heel and I'm the head, well, guess what? Which head would like to be without a heel?
I think the heel is the supportive.
The heel supports the body, takes you places. Every single limb, every single part of the human body is critical to the existence and functionality of the body. Without that part of the body, you would be a Baal Mum, you'd be blemished. So we want every part, and yes, every cell has something special to it. Without the feet, you can't go places. The feet they carry you into the next level, they carry you places. The head is the thinking mechanism. You need a head and you need feet. So the challenge of Avas Yisrael, the challenge of loving a fellow Jew, is to stop looking at the chitzoniyut of Kol Adam, at the external, which is, oh, this is what I see you for what you are, and rather start looking at the Pnei Kol Adam, start looking at the Pnimius of what this person is. And what is the Pnimius of the person? Well, what is his mission? What is that person truly about? So when you discover the Pnimius of what the person is, you realize, okay, so this person has a mission to deal with such and such obstacles in their lives, and as they do so, they're a champion. Even, by the way, if they fail. Why would they be a champion if they fail? It's like Rabbi Mechabed Ashiri. Rabbi was Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. Have you heard of him? He was the author of the Mishnah, Rabbi Judah the Prince. Rabbi would honor wealthy people. Now, Rabbi was one of the wealthiest people in the world. The two wealthiest people in the world, in all of history probably, are Antoninus, Rabbi's friend, the Roman, and Rabbi himself. And yet Rabbi would honor wealthy people. And why would he honor them? So we think, well, why? Because they had money, that's why. When Rabbi passes away, he lifts up his fingers and he says, my pinkies did not derive any benefit from anything in the material world. This is a man who had his own private jet, or whatever they had in those days. He says, my pinky did not derive any benefit from anything in this world ever. Yet Rabbi honored rich people, and he explained as follows. The reason is because the rich person was given a greater challenge in a certain sense. Because he's able to do so much and accomplish so much, so his challenge is greater. So I respect the fact that you have a greater challenge, even if you failed at the challenge. And that's how to start viewing every single Jew. We start looking at them and say, I'm going to contemplate now. I'm going to meditate on this thought. The meditation is, Bonim atem la'Hashem lekeichem. You are children of God. B'ni b'choyri Yisrael. And the child comes from the parent. So all Jews are the DNA of God. Every single one. From the most secular, unaffiliated, uninterested Jew out there who could care less about anything, who looks to you like the biggest loser ever, to the holiest or seemingly holiest person, who's the sacred person who's studying and learning and in prayer all day long. And you say to yourself, number one, I don't know which person is the up and who's the down. It could be that this person with the challenges is actually greater. And even if it's not true, well, we need a body of all of us together. And so the Mishnah tells us, Hevei shval ruach, to be humble of spirit is bifnei kol adam. When you access the pnimiyut, the inside of each person. And when we live out of that pnimiyut, out of that inside of you, the inner consciousness, then we're able to have Avas Yisroel. Okay, are we good with that so far? What we want to do is access the Jewish theory, the Jewish unified theory of oneness. It starts with our ability to see other people together. The culmination in davening takes place, the transition takes place in what's the key tefillah of all. Shema Yisroel Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. Let's read it inside together. Turn to Shema Yisroel if you don't mind. And I want to read this pasuk together. Okay, I have it on page 46. So let's look at the words, because just looking at it is going to enable us to see deeper. Shema Yisroel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Can you help me? Because I don't know the English.
Hear
Hear
Israel.
Hear, oh, is
Hashem, our
Is that
God,
what Hashem is
is
one?
one.
Okay, now tell me how you hear. Like that? What does it mean to hear? Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. What does that word Shema mean?
I will tell you.
She'll tell you.
We hear with our hearts.
Okay. Yes. Shema means to hear. Shema also means to contemplate.
I heard this whole thing.
Good.
I forgot who said it, but it's shh, listen,
Yeah.
think about it.
Meditate and get it. Good. Shema means to actually meditate and to contemplate. But I want to draw you now to another explanation, because the beauty of the Hebrew language is that there's so many variations of how to read the words. The word Shema in Tanakh, let's see who knows Tanakh. Where does the pasuk say, "Vayishama Shaul et ha'am"?
That's when
Okay, it's a tough one.
he felt their pain. That's why he was so humble. He was able to become the king.
He was able to come and give, that's true. But it says, Vayishama Shaul et ha'am. Vayishama means, this is an explanation of the word Vayishama, a literal translation. Another one, it does mean here, it does mean to contemplate. I want to do a different one today. Shema Yisroel means gather. Vayishama Shaul et ha'am means to bring together, to gather. And what we want to do in this verse is Shema Yisroel, to gather all of Israel together, so that Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. It's the same as the mitzvah of Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. If you Shema Yisroel, if you gather all of Israel together, how do you do that? By contemplating it. If you think of other people you most hate, and you look at them and you say, okay, I don't like this person's externality, but the person has a real challenge in life. God gave them a real difficulty in life. And what I want to do is I want to focus not on their exterior, I want to focus on their interior. I want to look at the person and say, listen, you're terrible. You know, I don't like you. Now it could be that I'm wrong. That's one part. But even if I'm right, Shema Yisroel, in order for us to experience the oneness of God, we first need to experience oneness within ourselves. And when you see another person, and the other person bothers you and upsets you, then you are not going to be able to daven today. Because in order to daven, you have to rid yourself of all negative feelings towards other people. And I don't know of any other way to do it when if you went and said sorry and wonderful and it worked and you got back together, that's great. But if you're in the middle of it and you feel that pain and that difficulty and that challenge between you and that rift between you, how do you overcome that rift? The answer is shift into inner consciousness, into your own inner consciousness. So let's try the meditation. Davening is about to begin. I'm saying, Hareini mekabel alai, mitzvah sasei shel ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to love my fellow Jew as I love myself. And then I'm saying, let's be honest about it. Let's think about that one person. No, I don't love the other person. Okay, so you know what it means, everybody besides that person, because they're so bad. That can't mean that person.
I just say Rofei Cholam and I insert their name.
Good. That's great. But do you feel a love for them in the process?
I feel more compassionate towards their troubles, because when you daven for someone over and over, Rofei Cholam, you realize that it's something that they're actually really struggling with. You sort of feel bad for them.
Right. And when you realize that, Yitamu chatoim v'lo choitim. That's what Bruria told her husband, I believe it was, Rabbi Meir. She said, Yitamu chatoim v'lo choitim. Daven that the sins should disappear, not the sinner. And the way we do that is by a realization that we're all one entity. So here's the meditation for every morning. I'm going to contemplate. I'm going to shema. I'm going to think about the fact that all of us are one. Why is it we're all one? Because there's one God, and we all come from Him, and we are all His child. And there's many different limbs. Each person, each individual is a different limb. And each of us is his own thing. And God gave you your mission with your set of talents and challenges all together to accomplish. And hopefully you win and you accomplish your thing. And what I would like to do is make sure that I'm going to help you do it in the best way possible. And even if I don't like you, and even if I'm upset, I'm going to be upset from a loving position. There's a big difference between feeling animosity and feeling jealousy versus feeling a foundation of love. That's the mitzvah. What it means is, as you said, what you don't like being done to you, don't do to your other person. What don't you like being done to you? You don't like to be rebuked from a place of, from a zilzul, from a place of derision. You want to be valued, validated as a human being. The greatest thing you could do to another person is to feel you're special, you're valid. You're also a lowlife, but you're incredible. You're an incredible lowlife. Meaning the core of who you are is a child of God, and you're on a mission. And your mission is to overcome the challenge that you have. And that feeling is a feeling of oneness that we all have with each other. It can only be accomplished when you shift into Hevei Shval Ruach Bifnei Kol Adam. So when I see a person who's a lowlife, what do I say to myself? How am I going to be humble from a lowlife? What do I say? Nebuch what?
He's going through something very challenging.
Try this. Wow. I don't think I'd be able to handle your challenge.
Right.
You're going through something incredible, and God gave you a challenge. I don't know how I would handle that. And you're amazing and incredible, and your mission is unreal. And so, Hevei Shval Ruach Bifnei Kol Adam, when I look at the Pnei Kol Adam, and I recognize that all of us are the DNA of God, and we have a mission over here to accomplish, then I become humble from your insides. And that's this tefillah. Shema Yisroel, gather, O Israel. Gather all of you together. How do you gather? You don't actually physically gather. How do you gather? What's the answer?
Recognizing that you're part of the same thing.
Because Shema means gather, Shema also means to contemplate. So you need to contemplate a sense of oneness of all of us together. The way to do that is by realizing the mission that God gave us. And then Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Hashem can become one. Because in the unified theory of oneness, what we want to do is overcome all the challenges that we have out there. There's kinna, taiva, covered. We all have this sense of jealousy and taivas that we have, desires and yearnings, and the need for honor. There's so much, it's all about me and my own needs. And what we do in davening is fuse with the divine. When we meditate and reflect on what God is to us, when we get into that state of pnimiyut, of oneness, so we're no longer each one fending for his or her own. Each one becomes a part of the wholesomeness and totality. And so this very tefillah where you unite with others is also the core of Jewish belief, which is that Shema Yisroel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. There's only one. Everything you do is for one purpose, for one goal, for one mission. To get to the state of awareness requires us to overcome our prejudices, our inner judgment, to stop being judgmental of other people, to think of other people and to realize that your success is interwoven and linked to my success. And through your success, I too succeed. And I want to, in conclusion, just look at one other tefillah. And take a look, please, at page 30. On line 4. What does it say in line 4? Histarta Histarta fonecha hayisi nivhal. What is the simple meaning of that without what we've learned?
You hid your face and I was afraid.
You hid your face and I was... Nivhal is scared, trembling. Now, what do you think you're supposed to think about when you say those words? You hid your face and I'm scared. Why are you scared?
You're disconnected.
But without what we've learned, just a simple meaning. When you've governed until now, what were you thinking about?
You hid yourself.
If he's not there for me,
If I don't see God,
I'm scared.
then I'm
It's
scared.
like the father is not around.
Yeah.
Exactly. And what we're learning is that fonecha is
Inside.
inner consciousness. Histarta fonecha, if I don't have that inner consciousness, hayiti nivhal, then I'm scared. Why? Because if I don't live with the inner consciousness, do you know how scary life is? Every other person out there is a competitor of mine. You're better, you can achieve more, and my talents are limited. The world is scary, there's so much to achieve, so much to accomplish, and I don't know whether I can or can't, I don't know if I'm going to succeed or not. It's challenging
Their
and
lot
it's scary.
versus your lot.
Versus what?
Their lot versus your lot.
The moment I access the pnimiyut, in all its facets, and the moment I say, Hevei shval ruach bifnei kol adam, so now you're not my competitor, you're actually working together with me. We're all parts of all the wholesomeness of one big unit together. And when I Shema Yisroel, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, I realize, oh, in the inner consciousness of everything, the Bak Shufan of Tamid, so who's God? Kel B'Kotshoi. There's nothing to be scared of. God is everywhere. God believes in me. When I look at the Pnimis, I understand, yeah, I've got my external negativity. But inside, I'm His child. And if I live with that inside contemplation of myself, of God, and of other people around me, I feel wholesomeness. And that's what we want to achieve in davening. Histarta fonecha, when you miss the sense of inner consciousness, now you feel the lack of wholesomeness, and that's where the scary part of life begins. What we're doing in davening is not getting rid of our challenges. It's just being able to view our challenges in a different light, and being able to see all of us in a sense of oneness. So what we've learned is in the preparation, next time we'll go into the actual davening now, in the preparation for davening, that's what Kitzur Shulchan Aruch says. Number one, give tzedakah. When you give tzedakah, what happens?
You open your heart.
You open up your pnimiyut. That's ani b'tzedek yechezeh fanecha. I open up my tzedek, my tzedakah, and then I can see your pnimiyus, right? And that's Rabbi Lezer Yorev Prutel Oni V'Adam Matzli. And then he would daven. And the other thing to do is to contemplate and to meditate on Avas Yisrael, what it means to all be one body. Because when we see ourselves all as one entity, we lose that fear of life, and we're poised to go and make that difference out there. And that's what davening is. It's the whole process of accessing that oneness. If I don't have it, I'm scared. But if I do have it, then Shema Yisrael, listen Yisrael, and understand Yisrael, and gather yourselves together all as one to this realization that Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. And there's nothing what to be afraid of. I got you covered. That's the theory of Jewish oneness.